time to review some game development. Welcome, folks, welcome. It's the monthly report time. February was like 15 days ago almost, but that's never gonna stop us. All right, we're obsessive, we're addicted, and we enjoy the pain of reading things that we can't play for 6 months. So we're gonna go over the monthly report for February and talk about new features and locations and ships and stuff, and maybe something really interesting will come out of it. It's been a busy start to the year across CIG Studios, and February was no different. We're going to talk about vehicle progress, cloud rendering developments, and AI updates. From skimming, I can say that there's a lot more in there to be hyped about than this, but okay. As mentioned in last month's report, AI features continue development features for a key initiative, the first iteration of which is planned for Alpha 3.23. Further details will be revealed in the run-up to release. Is that a global event? AI for a key initiative in 3.23. Maybe it's a new event, but why would they be working on a new event AI stuff right now? AI features began their work on a key AI-driven initiative for 3.23. So that's all they're going to say about it. It's a key initiative. This must be one of those things that's not quite on the release view yet. What could that be? This involved a variety of improvements and new behaviors that required frequent discussions between various disciplines. This just does not say much. All right, so creatures is the most likely what this is, but we don't know for sure. Please don't take that and run with it. It might not be the case, but we could see creatures in 3.23. All right, during February, AI tech focused on a variety of improvements alongside future work, including for the navigation system. The main focus of this was on extending the planetary navigation mesh to be able to generate across a whole planet. Turn that music down a bit. Due to a limitation of the initial implementation, it currently has a latitude limit at which navigation tiles can be created. However, with the new approach, nav mesh can be generated anywhere on the planet following physics terrain patches. The devs are currently improving the tile border simplification process to make sure all nav mesh tiles connect correctly with each other. The nav mesh system is, I think, underutilized because AI sucks so much. Because you don't see AI too much on planets. But apparently, it's been working on almost the whole planet all this time. For NPCs using trolleys, focus was on the exact positioning of trolleys in the environment. Now, an NPC can correctly push a trolley to a location with an arbitrary orientation. The team also improved transit and elevator usage while pushing trolleys so that the overall flow is more robust and fluid. Trolleys. Remember how they released trolleys with these super small wheels? Imagine pushing those across the planet. That sounds rough. Spaceship behaviors were also iterated on to deliver better ship versus turret combat. Fighters will now correctly target standalone turrets and perform appropriate combat behaviors. Precision mode. Obviously, this is for the AI side, but we are also getting this ability with precision mode in the next update. And turret versus ship gameplay is going to be a lot bigger deal going forward. Numerous updates were added to the Apollo tools, such as improved feedback for errors in missions. For example, the overall box that represents a function turns red when the logic contains errors, because red's bad, except for tomatoes. Those are good. The team also increased usability when navigating between mission callbacks, allowing the designers to jump to the appropriate logic from multiple elements of the interface. A new UI for the subsumption tool is underway too. Y'all know subsumption. We go over it every time. You get sick of me saying it. Subsumption tool is their ability to create logic for AI and for missions. It allows them to create a flowchart that dictates how things will react or act based on what's happening around them. AI tech continued to support PU releases, while an important upcoming feature continued development, which can be experienced in Alpha 3.23. What is that feature? What does that mean? Art from the ship's side. They call it art. This is essentially just the ship's update section. Last month, progress was made on the RSI Polaris, with the exterior progressing to LOD 0 and the interior approaching its gray box review. Some interior sections were worked up to establish a visual target, while others were designed to accommodate gameplay and improve alignment with the art direction. That's pretty big. LOD 0 on the exterior is good. That's solid. Makes sense though, given where the Polaris was during CitizenCon, because that was, I think they showed us maybe a gray box Polaris exterior during CitizenCon. Polaris going to LOD 0 is good. LOD 0 means this is basically you can measure the detail that a ship is finished by its level of detail rating. So LOD means level of detail. If you have the level of detail art at 50 meters, that means you've detailed the ship up enough that it looks believable at 50 meters. LOD 0 then means you are 0 meters away and the ship looks believable. So they have gotten it down to the most minute details, at least in terms of geometry. Now they can start to work on things like lighting and textures and other stuff like that. As for the interior, they haven't gotten to that point. They're still at the gray box review, which is kind of like something you'd see right here, I would say. Yeah, so this is the RSI Zeus in gray box. So this is kind of gray box looking. It's how we saw the exterior of the Polaris late last year. So this is still a while away, and even after the art's done, they're going to have a ton of gameplay stuff to work on with this. So I still wouldn't expect it till end of year at the earliest. 2 upcoming variants progressed through the pipeline. One continued its LOD 0 pass, the other passed the LOD 0 gate review. The latter then moved on to the final damage and LOD passes while its UV2 and paints were completed and approved. There's nothing really to know about that. 2 upcoming variants could be anything. It's not the G12s because that's 3 variants. All right, the gold standard pass continued for the Aegis Retaliator, which is currently awaiting gray box gate review. Feedback from a recent sanity review is currently underway. The ship's base cargo and bombing and torpedo modules are also progressing well following minor art direction feedback. You hear that that M-word, modularity. Things get a little intense. We haven't seen too much on modules recently, but we do know that it's in the works. We've seen them for the Galaxy. That was kind of a big point, actually, when they released the Galaxy, at least the concept. And we've seen a little bit of it regarding the Retaliator. Let me see if I can find that video. Wow, I do not have... That doesn't make sense. No, I definitely should have that footage. So here's some of the footage we have from the Retaliator's gold standard update. As you can see, I think they changed, yeah, they removed this airlock down here. Doors look slightly different, maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, there's more space for the doors. Yeah, no more airlocks on the bottom and top though. I think they moved, here's the elevator they updated. Ah, okay, so they put the airlock where the elevator was. And then the elevator, that was anticlimactic. Let's look at the other one. So here is the gold standard, what it's supposed to look like inside. This is from a couple years ago, so it might have updated a bit since here, but you can get an idea. Retaliator is a bigger ship than I think it is. Every time I think about it, I don't think of a ship that's big enough to have a space in it like this, but this is just one part of the ship too. The big statement for you was that the last blocker for modularity had been cleared. Did they say that? Honestly, they said that at... Oh no, that's right. They did not say that at CitizenCon. I said that at CitizenCon. That was my one of those rare times when I like to try and make a prediction. I do think that modularity is coming with the Retaliator. I think they made that pretty clear at CitizenCon, and I'm pretty sure if you look up Retaliator modularity or something, yeah, the video pops up. So if you go and watch this video, this has a decent summary of the stuff that they said. Actually, see if I can play it right here.
When we have that, Retaliator modules will probably be the first thing that come online using it.
Yeah, so here's John Crew. By the way, John Crew is currently in the hospital. So, you know, good wishes to him. I hope his recovery is fast. I won't get deep into what happened. He had a medical emergency, had to get a medical surgery to remove an ulcer, and is recovering in the hospital. That's all I know. He just updated us on Twitter. But he seems to be okay. Back up and communicating and stuff. Just had a rough week. So thoughts out to him. Thanks so much for what you do, man. And I hope he gets better soon. But here he is, and this is, I think, back in 2020. Little streamception here. Okay, here we go. Oh, God. Gross. 2020. Yeah, so here's John Crew in 2020 talking about it.
Like the underside pods.
Yeah, still planned. They are, those ones are actually technically blocked, but that's the same tech blocker as we have with the Retaliator modules. So when we have that, Retaliator modules will probably be the first thing that come online using it, and then we can go back through the catalog of ships that have that same sort of modular room functionality and implement that.
Oh, so they have definitely been strong on their messaging that this is going to be, the Retaliator is going to be the ship.
Criteria of work, so looking at the cockpit, looking at the components, adding all the things, checking everything's symmetric. But because it's got an interior, then...
Here we go. This last summer.
Pretty much figured out the last hurdle, and in fact Chris is responsible for the test that I got him to do for it, where we can have object containers, which is the interior collection of assets, loaded as an item, loaded onto the ship, because that's how the rear of the Hull C is attached to the ship and moves with it. What had stopped us technically going any further with this was items inside those object containers couldn't talk to the vehicle it was connected to. Right. So the example of the Retaliator, the torpedo droppy arms, they're actually part of the exterior of the ship currently, because that's the only way they can work. So if we allowed you to swap the modules, no matter what module you had, there'd be a pair of torpedo arms dangling through the middle of it. Chris did a test where he attached a load of missile racks and torpedoes to the inside of the back of the Hull C, which is not going to ship with it.
Wait, you're saying we're not having a torpedo Hull C?
Yeah.
There is a shelf that says "Do not submit" in very large letters.
And the pilot had full control of that, and they could fire them. So after the Hull C ships and we found any more quirks with that setup, we're in a position where, to my knowledge, touch wood, technically there's nothing stopping us doing modularity now. That was the...
Boom. So that was last summer, and obviously there was a little more work they did have to do with it, but makes sense now that they're coming out with modularity with the Aegis Retaliator this year, it seems. 2 unannounced vehicles passed their Lot 0 gate reviews as well. Remember, that means high detail, with only one minor issue to resolve between them. Both will now move into the final phase of development that implements damage meshes and LODs. That's interesting to me because... Sorry. That's interesting to me because this is another pair of unannounced vehicles, but this could also go back to our video from late last year with all those different ships and stuff that were going on. This might be something that was from there and we just don't know about it yet. So we've got the Polaris, 2 upcoming variants, that's 3. Aegis Retaliator is 4, that's an update, we won't count that. 2 of these is 5. Zeus is, we'll say 6, 7, 8. And another ship was completed polish, that's 9. Another one's going through white box. Wow, white box, gray box, and Lot 0? That must be like a hover bike or something. So that's 10. 10 ships they've got. 10 new ships they've got listed here, getting work put on them. Hornet Mk2. What would the Hornet Mk2 be, though? Because this is 2 vehicles. This is 2 variants. And this is a white box ship. Unless they had to start over with the white box for the Mk2. The RSI Zeus is approaching the end of Gray Box as well. That's what we're seeing down here. With the team polishing geometry around the ship. A redesign of the cargo hold is nearly complete, as are changes to the inner frame of the ramp and ramp piston mechanism. I'm sorry, you did what to the mechanism? It's that little Cars joke there. Additional high-frequency detail was added to help increase the illusion of inner structure between the exterior hull and the chassis, while maneuvering thrusters on the nose were moved to allow for better integration into the surface. A redesign of the ship-to-ship docking ring door and frame was done to better fit the RSI aesthetic, while the mess hall was highly polished. Gotta have a good mess hall. The ship's habitation is currently being updated. The central hallway bulwarks were widened to allow for better navigation and consistency too. Polish was completed on another new ship, while yet another polish progressed through white box, gray box, and Lot 0. A final lighting pass will be done soon before damage and LOD work. Y'all want to check it? Hey, that's us! Thanks for being here, y'all. let's check out. Just trying to find the. Man, I wish it was easier to find the official channel. Let's check out what the Zeus looks like. Because a lot of people are into this ship. In fact, a lot of people were like, oh, this came out? I don't really care about the Spirit anymore. Which, I get it. It's definitely a lot better for certain applications.
To go through this?
But this is like a new, it's like a mid-sized, large, small ship kind of thing. Like,
planet.
You got a decent sized cargo bay and plenty of interior space for multiple people. You got 3 seats up front on all of the different variants. And ultimately, pretty good looking styling. Let's check it out. Oh, they cheered me on.
Okay.
Hello, Luna Maria.
All right. So as you guys have seen with the Spirit and with the many ships we've released thus far, our ships can, when they're finished, look absolutely gorgeous. But before any of them get to that point, they have to go through a very specific development process. And this is the first stage in that process. We call this white box. At this point, we've taken the concept, ripped it to shreds, and then reassembled it and plugged it all back together within the editor so that we can get a real good look at what players are going to see when they finally get this game. At this stage, with the Zeus, we've already ripped out all the thrusters, we've ripped out the landing gear, the turret, the seats, the beds, all of the interior spaces, plugged those guys back in, and we have what you see here. So again, the beginning of the process. At this point, we're able to jump in, start throwing in cargo, interacting with doors, getting in and out of beds, maybe in and out of toilets, and just getting an overall sense of what it feels like to interact with the vehicle. And it is very common that in this stage, we will make some adjustments from the original plan. As an example, on this ship,
literally as they've just said in the monthly report.
We've just made the decision to expand the center corridor, add a little bit more space to the rooms. And as a result, that's going to make it much smoother experience for players to traverse the interior of the ship, as well as for AI to traverse the interior of the ship. We've also expanded the main airlock that leads to the enter-exit ladder. And up here in the cockpit, we've separated the co-pilot seats a tad bit just to allow players to get in and out a little easier. So with white box, not the prettiest stage in the process, but it is essential that we nail this because it means we'll be able to deliver a...
Hold up. Y'all are getting an echo? A voice echo? Is that because of, wait, let me see if that's because of the... yeah. Okay. This is going to be a great ship, but this also might not be a great choice if you're going solo. Because it has three standard seats inside, they're going to expect this to be a crewed ship. And the gameplay now is not the same as it's going to be in the future. It's not going to be the same as the gameplay we have in the future when we have engineering and other reasons to stay active on a ship. People get too excited for these ships, man. Not even the Zeus would release in May. Like, you couldn't convince me that they would rush it that much. And the Zeus is still in gray box. End of gray box. I think the Polaris would be a IAE ship maybe, or a Citizen Con ship or something. I think that's still a ways away because it's not just the art. This is only the art section. They haven't talked about the functionality. Remember, it's a capital ship. We don't necessarily know how they're going to need to work on gameplay to support components in capital ships and stuff like that. All right, let's move on to weapons. Art on the weapon side, very important topic. Weapon art. No offense to weapons artists, honestly. It actually is an important topic, just like you wouldn't think of that in a space sim, I guess. Yeah, maybe you would. Weapon art worked through a host of updates planned for Alpha 3.23, including scope magnification and optic improvements. The aim is to overhaul the whole scope system to bring it up to modern FPS standards. The existing iron sights across all weapons were updated too. Alongside this, updates were made to improve streamline reloading across all weapons. They actually covered that in Inside Star Citizen last week. Yeah, they have some good examples here. I'll show you. So I think the biggest thing here is actually the reloading. reloading and packing. Reloading from your backpack and packing are pretty big deals. This is something that's been planned for Star Citizen for a while, and I think it's a really interesting topic. I'm actually trying to find more FPS-focused YouTubers that cover this, because I think there is a good chance to compare this kind of FPS improvements to your bigger FPS games, like maybe Battlefield or Tarkov. I don't know, maybe Goat or Level Cap would want to talk about it, but there are some significant changes coming to the FPS system here that they've been talking about, and I love them, honestly. You can already see from the HUD down here in the bottom right. You actually can't because I'm blocking it with my big head. Here we go. Already you can tell that these elements in the bottom right are way better in detail, in description, in information. You can see what kind of fire mode you have, how much ammo you have, how many magazines you have, what the ammo in those magazines are. You can tell that you've got ammo in your backpack here. You have plenty of button prompts to tell you how these things work. Once you're reloading, it actually tells you that the ammo is coming from the backpack rather than not. And the reason for this, as they describe in this episode, is that basically they want you to be able to reload without taking you away from the game. So you get a penalty because it's in your backpack, but you still get to use it because you've got it. And I'm honestly, I'm so grateful for that, because y'all know how much I will literally drop a gun because I think I don't have ammo, and then go into my inventory later and be like, oh, I had ammo and now I don't have the gun. So I think it's a fantastic system. I love that it just comes with a time penalty. And like the animations and everything we're seeing. I am wondering how they're going to animate the hand in the backpack. They're just going to have your hand like glitch up into your backpack to grab the ammo, or is there some kind of canned animation for it? The other thing here is ammo stacking. So this one's a little more contentious, I think, because this one kind of leans more into that sim crowd, and people like Tarkov and stuff, of like manually loading weapons and ammo and stuff, but it also heavily simplifies it by making it basically a one button prompt. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I am ready to try this out in the game and see how it feels, but I was also very interested in this idea of like managing our ammo. But I got to admit, I think bullet by bullet is too much, you know, especially in a game that's not about FPS. This is a space sim. There's a whole bunch of things to include here. Maybe bullet by bullet management isn't the best. I think this is a decent middle ground. But I do understand, you know, if people think it's a little bit too arcadey. Essentially, and you can see this happening in the bottom right-hand corner here, what you can do is you can go into your inventory, find 2 clips of different types of ammo, or the same ammo but different amounts, or multiple clips. You press and hold a button, and it will automatically combine that ammo into one magazine for you. You can see in the bottom right hand here. That's what they just did. So to do that, to kind of show you that again, 15 ammo, and he fills it up with the 15 from the other one, and it leaves 15 in that last one. So they keep showing it off here, different examples. This is shotgun. See, it stacks up all the different ammos from the different magazines, and does it really seamlessly, you know? Again, it's a single button press, so it's kind of like, do you want it? Do you need it? Or should it just be automatic anyways? I think this is a good compromise again. And before somebody is upset that he says clips and not mags, I literally, every single time I think of talking about weapons, I have to consciously in my head be like, okay, make sure to say magazines, make sure to say magazines, because as soon as you say clips... So there's ammo repacking, there's the reloading stuff, and then there's what they just talked about, which was the scope changes. And actually, I'm going to show you what they showed us at CitizenCon for the scope changes, because that's more indicative of their long-term goal. What they're showing us in that episode is 323. So don't get it wrong. It's not like what I'm about to show you is what we're getting in 323. But I think this should be shown also because it... Oh, you know what? Actually... It's not, no, it's not here. It is, here. So this is the long term, and I think it's worth seeing this because people are like, hey, you know, this is good, but maybe they should do a little bit more with like the way the light refracts and stuff. And once you get the chance to see this, you see that they're actually working towards that. But where was it? Is this the wrong panel? What heck can... here we are. So I think this showed the proper zoom effects. Let's see. You can see it kind of... The scope is already active, right? It's refracting light. And doing all the stuff without you actually having to be right behind it, showing that it's physicalized in the game. Blocks the light and stuff. And yeah, so in this situation, it's zooming what's in the lens, but not what's outside of the lens. This is kind of that previs of like, this is where we're going. Don't forget this. We aren't going to just leave it as is, but I think they're still having some problems getting it to look just like this compared to what we're getting in 323. Oh, that did actually zoom in the screen though. Maybe I'm wrong. Is there any actual zoom there? I feel like there is, but I might be an idiot. Yeah, maybe there's not. No, actually, I don't think there is zoom there. They definitely zoom in the whole screen here. So I might be wrong about that. I thought that they showed off the actual zoom effects without zooming the outside. That is their goal, but maybe they didn't actually show it here. Oh, the iron sights, right. Yeah, you can't tell too much of that in this video unless you know the weapons really well, but the iron sights that they show here are definitely giving you better visibility. Other things that are interesting to look at here, though, are mission objectives in the top right, looking pretty clean. Reputation system in the bottom left. Updates are slightly, or the little notifications are slightly updated on the top of the screen, the way they spawn in. It's a little cleaner. And then also down here, holy crap, down here there's a lot going on. But again, this updated HUD, which is the visor and lens system, I think is such a freaking great quality of life update to this game. It is needed. Down to core gameplay. This is the most exciting part of all this. February saw the core gameplay pillar continue to refine and improve new backpack reloading ahead of QA testing. Just looked at that. For example, magazines are now repacked in a player's inventory, so multiple half-empty mags are condensed into fewer full ones. Support continued for the ongoing scope updates, including correctly folding down iron sights when sights are attached. Support for blur on the outside of the sights is currently underway. The team also enabled the weapon customization UI to look more holographic ahead of a UI styling pass. So support for blurring the outside of sights is a thing, but nothing about just straight up making it unzoomed. That might just be too much effort. Might take some render to texture tech and render to texture. For item, wear, and misfire, further work was completed on the accumulator system. Additional tools were implemented to make working and testing the system easier too. This is one of those little things that's supposed to make playing the game, like when you're talking about playing the game and then you're like, oh yeah, but why would I do that? Why would I take that? Why would I pick that up? That's one of those features that's why, because of wear and tear and stuff like that. If you are using a gun, or let's say you're moving around in space, right? Using your tractor beam, pulling yourself around, cool, doing all this stuff. And then you're a cargo hauler. You go and you lift up a couple boxes, cool, you move some stuff. Suddenly your tractor beam tool is dead, battery's gone. You can't do anything. Now you have to start to think about, okay, well, that's why I brought extra batteries. That's why I have batteries in my backpack. That's why I have a full-size tractor beam tool. There are like little things like charge and drain and wear and tear that are supposed to make the things we use kind of temporary, or at least something that we have to pay attention to. And this is definitely one of them. Let me show you kind of what this is going to look like. It's not crazy either. There are plenty of games that do stuff like this, and I think this will be less in your face than some of those other games.
Okay, on.
But still something to make you think about the choices you're making and, you know, consider what's going on with your equipment.
Unchanged. And you should be able to hear the audio as well. It's get growlier. Okay, on to some consequences. So it's not all visual, so we're going to start with misfire. So the first thing that's going to happen is You press the trigger, your gun doesn't fire. The second thing that happens in this video, you got. I hope you guys know what's happening. So it goes and then it goes click. That's the bullet getting lodged in the chamber, right? So we gotta fix it. It's telling us to fix it. We're hitting the button. Our enemy's firing on us. So you got some options. You don't have to fix it. You could holster your gun. You could pull out a new gun. You could use that new looting interface that Ines showed to grab a better gun. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna finish this
Tyrus. Ooh.
section with the features that's tangentially related to wear, and that's the dirt accumulation. So here again, we're gonna see a simulation of dirt accumulating over time on the same rifles we saw before. But in the actual game, this would be based on your activities and the environment you're in. So if you're running around in a sandstorm, you're rolling in mud, you leave your gun outside proper storage, it's going to accumulate dirt. And that's going to increase the rate at which it wears. So the dirtier your gun is, the faster it will wear out. And this is true for other biome accumulations, like frost. So let's take a look at this one as well. Oh, or not. Okay, so yeah, so in the future it's going to be really important that you keep your guns clean and repaired. I'm now going to welcome Zach on stage, and he's going to talk to you more about the FPS weapons. Thank you very much.
All right, so that's, again, not a big system, but it adds up. This is something that's going to be true for components, for the vehicles you're driving, for the armor you have, the guns you have, your own body, actually. Like, hold on, literally, your own body will go through this, watch. If you take too much damage, you remember the Death of a Spaceman, we went over it, it's on Space Tomato 2 months ago maybe? Check it out if you're interested. There are actual... There are, oh no. Are you serious? I accidentally saved a ton of files with the same name, so it pops up so many files when I type in cybernetics. Death of a Spaceman, you can lose multiple lives. If you do that, and you maybe don't have good health insurance, I don't know if that's what they're gonna say, but like if you don't have the best services, or maybe you just decide to go a different way, you will have wear and tear in your body, and that can be replaced by cybernetics. And they've been working on these for quite some time. This video itself is from like 2021, so we know that this is just ingrained into the design and the ideas. They could always go back on this. I don't think they will. I think this is a very easy sort of aesthetic, cool thing to do for bodies and showing wear and tear, but it's to show kind of how universal this idea of you can have all these things, all these wonderful things in the game, but if you don't use them right, you're gonna lose them right. Good fun. Yay. Thanks, inefficiencies. All right, for player interaction, the team spent a lot of time bug fixing and polishing. I hear that they never fix bugs in this game. They also added a game option to hide the F prompt and added a new control hint for when an off-screen interaction is available. We should also remember this, hiding the F prompt, and I believe they said hiding the dynamic crosshair whenever they do bring up new things, whether they be UI or something similar, and people start losing their minds. Remember that they do let us, they let us hide stuff. There's options. You don't want a crosshair, don't use the crosshair. You don't like F prompts? Turn the F prompt up. Every time I feel like they talk about something like this, you get like a wave of just, this isn't what Star Citizen is supposed to be. This isn't correct. Why are they doing? And then they're like, well, you don't have to have it on. And it always seems to be, that's the answer. Except for engineering. Sorry. You gotta have in master mode. Sorry, you gotta have those on. The devs, my friends, then added the ability to show the loot screen from the interaction wheel. People will also now auto-crouch if the object they're looting is below them. Cool. Awesome. Sounds like a fun way to try and dodge gunfire. Support was added to automatically open the inventory UI instead of the loot screen if the lootable container is above a certain capacity too. Okay. This is one of those sentences that I like because it just cleared up a really big question I had. I was wondering if they were going to get rid of the inventory UI because I saw a couple of different things that maybe hinted at it, but this is kind of confirming that they're not. You can either open up the looting inventory UI or the actual inventory UI. The new looting screen is pretty cool. Looks like this. Much more streamlined than what we're using right now and much faster to use. In fact, you can see from the very beginning. Okay, you gonna play? So this is much faster, obviously, much smoother. Gives you access to the essentials. They did say that they're going to have armor and armor attachments on here as well, so it's not just weapon stuff. But being able to just quickly shift things in and out, customize your weapons, change out your ammo composition, all of that at the click of a button. Much better in my opinion. But I was hoping that this would do away with the inventory UI. I'm wondering what they're going to do with inventory because I don't think it should put you in third person. I think that's weird. I don't know. We'll have to see. But this is the looting screen that they're talking about right now. All right, the devs then added the ability to show the loot screen. We already read that. The team are working on a replacement for the legacy quick buy UI using building blocks. Thank God. This will also be used for renting vehicles during events. Work continued on the freight elevator kiosk UI backend too. Important UIs. For the ongoing visor and lens HUD rework, progress continued on various UI elements, including priority notifications, mission objectives, and chat. Regarding EVA, core gameplay continued to implement and improve networking support and ensured that players' arms and held entities don't clip into their torso when traversing and rotating. All of this, like, these are such... Where's my dang bleeping button? These are such hard-hitting additions. I can't get over the fact that I'm making a video just about this segment of the monthly report because the amount of stupidly simple stuff that has pained us to no end that's getting fixed in just this segment is, man, it's gratifying. I can't say it's getting fixed for sure. I guess that's going a little too far. Stuff that's getting updated though. If I had read any single one of these 3 sentences like 2 years ago on a monthly report, I'd be like, oh. Now I just kind of pass over it because, well, we're finally here. All right, for prone animations, players will not be forced out when they perform actions that require them to crouch, such as melee attacks. I can't melee while I'm prone. Further locomotion improvements were made in collaboration with the animation team too. Love me some locomotion. For master modes, core gameplay continued working with design to tune archetypes. Man, we talked a lot about archetypes in the podcast. Was that 2 days ago? Talked a lot about archetypes. They have so far completed around 90% of the initial conversion, with further tuning passes and refinement to be done before release. I think the biggest thing to know about master modes is that it's like a very long-term thing. Everything that they're talking about doing with master modes now is kind of just a base layer. It's not the icing on top, you know? Work continued on jump points, with the team implementing an updated alignment mechanic. A new UI was also added to give players information on whether their ships are capable of completing travel. Successful tests transitioning between Stanton and Pyro across 2 servers were completed too. Dude, like it's just a statement in a monthly report, but if we had seen something like this back in 2022, I think people would have said they were lying. Even though we expected Pyro was supposed to be out by that time. Just because what do you mean servers are meshing? What are you talking about? That doesn't happen. 2 years. 2 years. We're on the road to server meshing. Don't say that. Okay, another big system, another ridiculous system. God, for the resource network and engineering, heat gameplay was added, which enables items to generate heat based on their usage. Items will require coolant if necessary and will overheat and degrade in functionality. Oh my God! Woo! This is so good. There's so much good stuff here. What do I do with all this? Can I show you how long we've been waiting for freaking Heat gameplay? Let's dive deep back into this. We're going back, my friends, in the Star Citizen Wayback Machine to like 3.5 maybe? Like, oh my God. I promise I did not set that up. I also promise that I didn't actually know it was in 3.5. That's just a very good click. April 17th, 2019. The heat system was added. Well, improved. Improvements to the heat system to provide more systemic experience between items and vehicles. This will cover a variety of issues and their effects on vehicles, from how heat affects various components in a ship to incorporating heat values into the room system, all the way up to defining the ambient heat of a solar system. How many people have noticed that? Show of hands, because I can see your hands. Don't think I see you, Tom. Put them back. No. Putting them behind your back doesn't mean I can't see them. I see them. They're there. Show of hands, folks. How many people have noticed the heat system in Star Citizen? Or been affected by it? No hands are showing. Oh, I see somebody. Okay, somebody's got a hand up. Yeah, it's basically non-existent for most gameplay. You'll kind of notice it with misfires and stuff, which I think is also something they added shortly after this. Somewhere. Yeah, degradation improvements and misfires. So like this is all the same kind of thing, right? We're talking about the UI, the HUD, the underground facilities we've got right now, the star map, the looting system, the inventory, platforming, locomotion. All of these things that are getting updated right now are all the stuff that they added in the 3.0 cycle to just get us through the 3.0 cycle until the game was ready. And you just go down this list and you just start to see how many of these things were just placeholders to get things to work until they could actually put in the real version on top of the game. So what they're showing here now is the heat system, and this is kind of more of your atmospheric deterrent of ship flight, but also this will affect you in the game. You have to control coolant. You have to make sure it gets to where it needs to go in order to keep your ship cool. And you also have to control power and data, I think. Gravity, life control, so like oxygen supply. There are several things that will apply to every single ship. And this is going back to, again, the size of the ships you're flying. If you don't want to have to deal with this kind of stuff, fly smaller single-person ships. If you are going to fly a big ship, bring somebody with you who can also help with this if need be. And this all comes with like a UI, so you'll be able to go in here and affect what's actually going on with your ship and how it's being managed. But the heat system also has a secondary thing that makes it a bigger deal. And that's something I asked Yogi about at the podcast, but he didn't talk about. No, instead he said, I can't talk about that, but you know, the engineering people. Now we have to try and get an engineering person on the podcast. But the heat system is going to affect the way you can fly in game, because right now you can hover as much as you want in atmosphere. And you all remember hover mode. Yet another feature that was added into the game back during this cycle and is going to be updated with the features being worked on now. All of it's all placeholder. But if you go and look at how the ship flight works in game now, taking flight, I think it was, you can hover as much as you want in game in any orientation. It doesn't affect you. But once we get to this point where heat starts to make a difference, the way your ship controls in atmosphere will be dependent on how fast you're going. If you're going fast enough, it will use the aerodynamics to keep you up. If you're going too slow, it'll have to use the thrusters. The slower you go, the longer you have to use the thrusters, the more those thrusters wear and tear, the more heat they build up, the more they start to damage your ship. This is going to be a way that the game actually limits how much you can just hover in place if you don't have a ship that's specifically made for it. I believe Yogi talks about it here in the demo from CitizenCon.
One system, how do you come to a stop now? To come to a stop with the new system, you need to purposefully put the ship into a stall. But don't worry, when we don't have the thrusters disconnected, IFCS will help you. So you're gonna bring down the speed more and more until you're reaching stall speed, which is about now, and then the thrusters will kick in and catch you. That means, however, you are now in a state that the thrusters don't like, right? So at the moment we have turned this up, but in the future you will not be able to hold this for long. So if Brent, for example, now from a hover, strafe is left.
See, that's Yogi saying that. It's not me.
More left, more left, more left. The wind flow again pulls the ship over, and you go forward again.
So that's showing the relationship between aerodynamics and your thrusters and how your thrusters will need to be used to keep you aloft. But they still don't talk too much about this because I think control surfaces and heat, at least from what Yogi was saying during the podcast, are still a ways out compared to this engineering gameplay. So they've got engineering working. Don't know if it'll affect flight, but it's definitely going to affect the way that we manage our ships. Zero, thank you so much for the gifted sub. Appreciate you, buddy. Life support is now also fully integrated into the resource network with the life support generator and tank now functional. This is, I know I'm getting into a lot of detail with these things, but these are super important things. Life support is another one of those features. Remember I said wear and tear, the damage, even the heat system. Life support's another one of these things. That's like, it's gonna force you to make decisions that the game wants you to make. Bringing other people on board your ship or choosing not to. Like you could have a Pisces and you could fly that Pisces into a spaceship and land and become basically a boarding party with however much space, let's say 8 people inside of your Pisces. That's not very realistic, but you can do it in this game. The way that they block that from happening is by having a life support system that will literally see you all choke to death if you're on that ship and there's not enough oxygen. You could just wear helmets, but you could see how this can be expanded for other types of ships and other situations. And it's detailed enough to where if your ship runs out of life support and you have no way of getting oxygen, you can just fly into atmosphere, open your doors, refill your life support system, and then fly back out into space. So it's a pretty cool systemic way of doing things, and I'm interested to see how it balances the game out. For radar and scanning, debugging tools were added for the room system to help better understand how the resource network and life support interoperate. Cool. For radar and scanning, core gameplay completed an important refactor to reduce the number of radar components on vehicles and share data between seat operators. Previously, each seat operator had a unique radar. Now vehicles can share a single radar across all operators. This means that a pilot or radar operator can focus on collecting radar and scan results that are then shared between all vehicle turrets, rather than each turret needing to scan for themselves. While it's still possible for vehicles to contain multiple radars, in time, the team will merge the majority into a single shared unit that will not only improve performance but gameplay too. Preparing for... Honestly, this is obviously a big preparation for exploration-focused things, but this is also kind of creating a new role for ships. This makes it way more realistic that larger ships are going to have an actual radar operator as like, hey, I'll come and be your pilot. Oh yeah, I'll be your engineer. I'll be your turret, and I'll be your radar operator. I mean, it might not be useful if you're not doing exploration or combat, but still, seeing things that build out that multi-crew role of the game is really cool. The team also supported elevators for the upcoming instance hangars and supported quantum travel and markers working alongside server meshing when transitioning to a new solar system. For Arena Commander, I want to get past this idea that they've dropped Arena Commander because people keep kind of shitting on the idea that it's not going anywhere, and it keeps going places every month. It's not prioritized, but clearly the people who are working on it are still doing some pretty good work and continuing to develop it. The team concluded engineering work for streaming, which allowed the Arena Commander team to utilize any persistent universe location with ease and avoid duplicating planets or other object containers. That sounds nice. Is previously required culling expensive locations such as cities and space stations. Yikes. The engineering work for custom lobbies is nearing completion. Following successful internal tests, the system is being handed off to QA for release assessment. The team also began working on basic custom settings such as score limit, time limit, and match cycle options to provide players with more control over their lobbies. Custom games in this, man. Custom lobbies. Oh, God. What a blessing. Man. The life is qualitacious, my friends. Qualitacious. Several internal tests were conducted on engineering experimental modes after an update to the backend matchmaker. New loadouts were created with all the engineering equipment needed for the mode, which is being prepared for a go, no-go meeting for the next release. Okay, so I think March, we're going to see a lot of things get flipped from tentative. Wait, it's Wednesday. We should be getting a roadmap roundup today. We might actually see something flip from tentative to confirmed today for the first time for 323. For those who haven't done much of the Star Citizen obsessing over the roadmap game, which is like the game in the game, it's the real game here. Basically, these roadmaps are released tentative, so all of these features are things they want in the patch, but aren't necessarily 100% sure will be there. They're pretty sure, but they're not confirmed. As time goes on and they get closer to the patch, all these different teams start to turn their work into the main build and see if it works well. If it does work well, generally it goes to confirmed, and we hear about it here in the monthly report. That's why we're hearing about the possibility of it now. The team also began focusing on the Arena Commander front end. Recently, focus has been on functionality, but now we are excited to improve not just the overall UX of Arena Commander's UI, but to bring it in line with quality and style established across the rest of the game. Solid. Finally, the team completed the back-end work required for Grav Royale and other upcoming game modes and maps. They also continued to enable streaming across all maps while supporting the release of Alpha 322.1, with several fixes and quality of life changes. At some point, I know I made a video series recently about everything you can do in Star Citizen, but at some point I need to make a video that goes over literally everything in this game. Arena Commander stuff, PU stuff, following the game stuff, getting into competition stuff, because if you're fully engrossed in Star Citizen, and I know there's a lot of you in here, you're like me, we got a problem. But if you're fully engrossed and you're just into it, there's so much stuff. Like, I used to be a super fan of Halo, but all I would do is read the books and play the games. And I might go on like the Bungie forums to talk about it a bit. But if you're a fan of Star Citizen, there's like so many different things to do. And then the game itself actually has a lot of stuff in it now. We just need some like stability, you know? I think Arena Commander would be great if it ran at better than 20 frames, but maybe now they have a computer that can do that. I'll feel differently. Core gameplay continued working on an underlying mission system refactor ahead of server meshing. Further progress was made on the mission perks and rewards system too. Good stuff. An update was made to reputation-based hostility, ensuring that if someone is being attacked, any nearby or allied security faction members will come to their defense. This also means that factions with negative reputation with the attacked players will not intervene. The amount of questions I have about how this works. Oh God. Could have a whole podcast about reputation, to be honest. Riddle me this. Let's say you're at an outpost in Pyro, and this outpost is predominantly manned by the citizens of Pyro, the people who are like, they're okay people. You know, they're cool with you, right? Let's say that there is also a rough and ready person at this outpost. Now, citizens of Pyro and Rough and Ready, maybe they have good reputation at this time, whatever, so they're not attacking each other. What if you attacked citizens of Pyro, and then, sorry, another complication. You have good reputation with citizens of Pyro. Your friend has good reputation with, oh no, did I just turn on tracking? No? Okay, it just blinked at me. Your friend has reputation with Rough and Ready, and you guys shoot the the citizens of Pyro person. What would the shootout look like? Citizens of Pyro shoot back at you. Rough and Ready has good reputation with you, so they shoot at citizens of Pyro. I think I just confused myself. Let's simplify this. Let's say you're going into a distribution center owned by Crusader, and it's being attacked by Ninetales. If your friend has good reputation with Ninetales, and you go in there to beat back Ninetales, would Ninetales start... Would citizens of... would Crusader start shooting at your friend because he has a good reputation with Ninetales? Because he also has the mission that you took to protect Crusader. So, like, what overrides that? The contract manager was also converted to building blocks in preparation for the new Mobiglass. Further polish and UX improvements are currently underway in collaboration with the UI team. Looking forward to that. I think we've seen what it's supposed to look like for the most part. We've seen the Squadron 42 version of this Mobiglass. Specifically this new app in it, and it's pretty clean. Once it comes up, I will show you what it looks like. Here we go. So here's the Squadron 42 Mobiglass, at least as of 2022. I'm sure this has changed quite a bit since then, but it should give you an idea of where they're headed. You can see they've got objectives, notifications, basically a mini version of all your different apps. And then you've got the communication screen here. And then you've got a mission manager that pulls up a lot of the stuff we already have, but I think it looks cleaner and does a better job of giving you important info. You know, who's showing you the missions, who is it for, what are your targets, where are you going, all that kind of stuff. So that's being worked on, along with a lot of other UI. For persistent and instanced hangars, work began on the instanced interior system. This manages which hangar instances exist, need to be created, and which physical gateways are used to transition between the instance and the rest of the game world. The fact that this work is beginning in February either means it's easy work, or this specific feature may be coming in a later part of the 3.23 patch cycle, like maybe 3.23.1. Because work beginning on the instanced interior system for these hangars seems a little bit late. The team implemented the initial version of automated cargo loading and unloading, including displaying information on ASOP terminals that the ship is currently unavailable for retrieval due to being loaded or unloaded. How long until NPCs are doing this? We don't know. Will NPCs maybe not actually be doing this in the future? I think they will, but it's clearly going to be a while. Progress was also made on the freight. Finally, for core gameplay, the team worked on various debug tools to aid in testing and debugging the various systems that drive instanced hangars, the warehouse system, and loading platforms. So that long freaking haul was the core gameplay section. And man, am I enthralled. It's good stuff. This is kind of new. I think this is something they started last month to report, reporting kind of all of the gameplay as core gameplay. Well, all of the core gameplay, all the stuff that affects everybody really is what's in this segment. And then as you get out, you start talking about economy and other stuff. Speaking of which, economy. Last month, the economy team made changes to bring salvage more in line with the PU's other careers. They're currently rebalancing commodities to improve the cargo career experience too. Just using the word career is good times for cargo. Economy work is going well. We'll talk more about that, I think, in a deep dive again coming up soon. But overall, they've been putting a lot of time and effort into the economy, which is part of the reason people haven't been super intrigued by the game. It never really feels like you have much need to earn money, and when you do, there's not much to spend it on, and there's not many money sinks, and so it feels a little static. The changes they're making, though, seem to be adding realistic values to all the stuff and getting the game prepared for the game, really. Having all this kind of background economic flow going on while you're doing your stuff makes the game feel more alive than if you run a bunch of missions and then end up with an arbitrary amount of money and nothing to spend it on. Support also provided for the Xenothreat global event, and the team began looking at FPS ammo prices. That's a big part of the starting of what we were just talking about. It's like it all starts with ammo, right? Ammo and food. What more do you need? Graphics, VFX programming, and Planet Tech. Okay, we're gonna beeline through the rest of this, folks. Throughout February, no, we're not. We won't do too fast. But I do need to pick things up. Throughout February, the graphics team progressed with their long-term tasks. For example, work is nearing completion on the unification of gas cloud and planet cloud upscaling, though challenges caused by animated lights in gas clouds need to be solved. The gas cloud occlusion effect is also nearing completion, which will increase the level of detail of all gas clouds, even in flat-lit scenarios. The team also resolved a long-standing issue that caused a harsh line to appear when 600 meters from where a gas cloud blends with the near fog system. That's a weird one. Here's some looks at these systems and the new cloud effects that will be coming into the game right now, tentatively, for Alpha 3.23.
In addition, we made many improvements to cloud shaping to allow for more variation and details. The shape noise blending, a vertical variation, has been improved a lot. Also, we made improvements to shorten long distance read, and the tiling is less visible.
So you can mostly see the occlusion of the cloud lighting, I think, here. Specifically what they were talking about. Makes a huge difference.
And best of all, we're going to include all these new features and improvements in the next 3.22 release.
Unfortunately, no, that didn't happen. But now the word is 3.23. So, you know, if that doesn't happen, then I'm sure we can estimate 3.24. The Global Illumination team continued to work on a system to approximate complex materials within a ray-traced view of the world. Last month, they began looking into performance improvements before tackling some of the more complex issues like moving objects and zones. Yes, that is correct. They are working on their own ray tracing solution.
So it's a simplified single color per object kind of thing. Clear it and then slap it onto the entire scene. Now, as you can see, like the middle of the scene is about the right lighting, but everything else has got the middle of the scene's lighting. Like these red lights at the sides, they're basically drowned out by the table bounce that somehow made it across the room to them. So we want to replace that system with 25,000 probes, each one of them only providing light to a small area around themselves. And then we interpolate that to provide like a smooth bounce. And you can see already in the distance, like the red light is really bouncing up there. And then we add a screen space occlusion pass just to tidy up the edges on things. And there is the final composite.
So I think it does show kind of the lighting and how it moves around. But one of the better examples of I think it's a really obvious one here is this. So this shows how the light literally bounces off the planet into your ship here.
I don't have a picture for this, but cargo bays, sometimes they're light, you land somewhere dark, you open up the doors, and now you've just got this weird little light room with nothing spilling out of it. So again, let's have a video. Oh yeah, so this is the old system. The sun's working, but you can see there's no sky, there's no ground lighting. By the way, I've turned off a lot of the cockpit lights so that you can see this.
So what he's saying is this is what you would see right now if you turned off all the lights in your ship and then did a barrel roll on this planet.
There's no sky, there's no ground lighting. By the way, I've turned off a lot of the cockpit lights so that you can see this. And then in the new one, you can already see the skylight is kind of helping a little.
Illumination.
But then as you turn over, you get all the ground lighting.
So they've been working, this is a tech company. I still don't know if I want to start out this new video I'm making like this, but I kind of compare CIG a bit to Tesla in the sense that it feels like they really started out as a tech company and then they really pushed hard and started to produce a product and get that out. Because they look at them, they just make their own version of all this stuff. A lot of people have complaints about it. A lot of people are like, stop reinventing the wheel, but they keep doing it because that's what they.
Characters being able to run their hands.
That's what they set out to
do.
do.
And have the hair react realistically.
From hair
is a set of physical geometry
to the damage system
and the entities on top that can break off.
To. Well, I mean, okay, water interactions is something you do with everybody. This isn't to say CIG is the only company that does this. Please don't think I'm saying that. I'm just saying there are a lot of ways to build games. Most companies don't try and make all the tech and then make the game. They try to kind of do it in synchronization, I think, or use an existing engine. But they were very much obsessed with just doing all of this stuff themselves in this game, and you know, it might be paying off now. We'll see. Speaking of which, February saw the Vulkan team pushing hard towards release, working through various performance issues such as compiler bugs caused by Vulkan's complex shaders. This is the Vulkan API, by the way. They also worked on a shader caching mechanism to compile shaders while the game is loading to avoid hitches. They are also considering whether this process can later run in the patcher to further reduce the chance of compiling when the game starts. Although progressing, this may not be fully complete by the initial public release. One of the biggest things that lags up your game when you start up, you know, everything is like super glitchy and it gives a lot of people a really bad impression. You see somebody hop into Star Citizen for the first time on YouTube and they load in and they're like, oh yeah, I heard about this. See, look how the game loads. The game might not be bad, but that gives a bad first impression. And I think that this will help with that, especially if they can get it to do this inside of the launcher instead of the game. Devs from the Water Strike team closed out the issues that came. Jeez, did I just blow out my mic? I'm sorry, guys. I'm a bit loud, aren't I? Devs from the Water Strike team closed out the issues that came up in their final review alongside several new features, including SDF interaction for accurate collisions when vehicles hit water and an improved water intersection shader. SDF assigned distance field basically allows the game engine to trace a 3D shell or sort of a outline of an object in the game. So they use sign distance fields for shield effects. They use them for atmospheric re-entry when the fire effects come on. They're going to use them for water collisions, and there's probably other things they use them for, but they allow for collisions to happen between assets. Last month, the Planetech team began improving the editor workflow for creating planets and planning out the next version of Planetech V5. Planetech V5 will cover a variety of areas, but the primary goals are to make creating planets quicker and easier and to try and achieve more diversity, density, and consistency and quality across whole planetary surfaces. They've said some interesting things about this. Have a listen to the future of planet development. This is kind of where Planetech V5 is going to be going.
Is that it's going to give us the ability to add more complicated logic on, so we can type of do more diverse and interesting terrain, like things like, you know, we don't have beaches at the moment, we'll be able to achieve that. And there's other similar things where, based on the local conditions, we're able to do more advanced decision making. Next thing we want to look at, which is probably the thing we get asked about the most, is our scattering system, which is what we're responsible for putting all the trees and the rocks down in the world. We're going to, again, move this to 100% to the GPU, and that should let us have vastly longer draw distances right up until the horizon and much better performance. So we'll finally get rid of the dreaded pop of trees coming in for you. We also have to integrate it with our harvestable system, the resource system, and the awesome fire system you just saw a minute ago. Another point is it's going to be a hierarchical-based system, which what that means is we'll be able to use nearby vegetation or rocks to influence what other vegetation rocks can grow or will show. And this lets us produce much more complicated rule sets, so we can do things like have a tree that maybe underneath it doesn't have any grass, or maybe certain trees come together in clumps, and we'll get a much more natural distribution of vegetation. And final thing we want for planets is we want to be able to build them much easier, much faster, and we want to make sure they are truly unique. At the moment, our planets are unique. However, they are built from type of tile sets, like pre-built things that get mixed and matched together and blended in complicated ways so you don't see the repetition. but it's not truly unique, not in the same way that the Grand Canyon might be, or the River Nile, or Mount Everest, and that's what we want. So to get that, we need to replicate the complicated natural processes on Earth, like geology, climate, erosion, and these things are...
Can actually give you, hold on a second, I can give you a look at what he means by that, the way they build their planets right now, using those tile sets, because I do believe this is similar to how Starfield was building their planets. And I'm guessing this is kind of a pretty industry, or at least it's become a kind of more industry standard way of doing it, building out your randomized tile sets and then procedurally connecting them and finding ways for the terrain to kind of meld into each other. Showing you kind of how much you can plug in to change out these terrain tiles. There are like a lot of settings included here. I don't know if they're going to show us a good view of it, but you can see how it translates down onto a planet. So they can do this kind of stuff fairly easily, and they have a lot of ability to change these things up. But after they do that, just to make things more interesting, you can also see here they actually show off the humidity and temperature maps for each planet too. So there's a lot they can do to make planets have different sort of values, and they can very easily paint. They can basically pick any spot on the planet that is a certain elevation, and they can paint it with a specific humidity and temperature or a specific biome, so that each part of the planet that falls under those conditions also has what that biome defines. And that makes it really easy to create planet-wide features without having to go across all the planets. It's procedural, but with an artistic touch. So they do a lot of this sort of building of the temperature and humidity maps, also building out these height maps, and then they get them all saved into these tiles. They could come in and select these tiles and then put them together across a certain area to create, certain patterns or macro geological conditions. That's kind of what they were talking about here.
Non-trivial. So we've got 3 options. We've got offline tools, Houdini, Terragen, things like this, where you could simulate all these processes in the engine. But we've started some R&D a few months ago on whether we can use machine learning to do some of this. So just to give you a quick idea of how that would work, or how it could work, if you just start with some random input here, it's just like some noise. We run it through a temporary simulation, so we can get a more reasonable approximation of simulation at different altitudes and latitudes on Earth. And then what we do is we categorize all this into different biomes. So based on the temperature and moisture, you'd find out what is a desert, what is a forest. And this part is crucial. So this is the input for our machine learning algorithm. We could come up with this image any other way. You could hand paint it as an artist, or we could just randomize the noise to get a different set of images. And then what we do is we take the large data sets we already have from Earth, from Mars, and from the Moon, and we train it on exactly the same distribution, so biomes, so forests, grasslands, and things like this. And by training it on exact...
That's enough about that. But Planet Tech is progressing. That's what you need to know. The rest of the graphics team focused on improving their upscaling tech ahead of its public release. This involved finalizing a new mesh format that gives major performance improvements, and we have seen that has been added here to the roadmap. DLSS, FSR, and in-house from their own game engine, they made their own upscaling algorithm, I guess, TSR. So again, it's a tech company. They're out here. You want to hear about upscaling in your game. You don't really expect the game maker to make their own version of it, but it's good to hear. It sounds like it basically is as effective, just a little bit less effective, but is more efficient, I think, which obviously, it's their own custom solution. But I love that. I love that stuff. Lighting. February saw the lighting team continue to support various upcoming PU initiatives, including distribution centers, instance hangars, freight elevators, and the new character customizer. All things that we will be covering in the coming weeks, especially character customizer. I think we're going to have a Citizen Central podcast about that soon. Locations on the EU side in February worked with the feature team to finalize the working prototype for cargo and the new hangar experience. Again, here they are talking about prototype. But then it also says final art and LODs are now nearing completion on all the modifications to hangars necessary for this exciting new feature. So, yeah, I don't know what this kind of vocabulary around these features that we should be seeing within the next few weeks is interesting. All right, the Sandbox 2 team worked towards closing out the upcoming distribution centers. For example, art is being finalized and optimized, while level design added the final tweaks to make sure the various areas can support all the gameplay the mission team want to add. There's like a pretty decent amount of space between whatever this is that we're sitting on in this picture and the actual distribution center in the distance here. That's like a solid kilometer away. Holy crap. These places might actually be too big. JK, we got spaceships, we're okay. Last month from the mission design, the team continued to work on a chain that comprises various mission types that scale in difficulty. You didn't tell me there were going to be mission chains in here. Okay. Oh, okay. Mission chains, huh? Like more than 20 minutes of entertainment? Hey. That's pretty cool. Hopefully that means that we get to kill a person, then take their stuff and go sell it, and that's the mission. Instead of just, killing a person and not selling their stuff. Elsewhere, designs for new missions are currently being signed off, while content and technical requirements are underway for future hauling content. Let me haul some pizzas, bruh. The development of Xenothreat 1.2 continued, with changes to gameplay and the implementation of freight elevators, while Blockade Runner received polish and the implementation of freight elevators too. Man, this is so much of a not empty monthly report. It's like almost every sentence has something pretty juicy in it. February saw a flurry of mission work as narrative focused on the upcoming Alpha 323 patch. Alongside UI and hint text, many of the new gameplay features will have corresponding missions. Fucking magic, Jesus. And the team have been working closely with design to develop a narrative players will experience. Like, having missions set for every new gameplay feature is how people are going to know how to use those gameplay features in sandbox environments. Imagine if we had missions for refueling, how much more people would be using fueling right now. Looking forward, progress continued on future story missions. Did I already? No, I did not say that. This is even more good stuff. These missions will be more involved than typical missions, featuring things like bespoke dialogue and custom logic. The hope is that these types of missions will serve to build out the story of the wider universe and work alongside the more traditional systemic missions. Hopefully, these are our mission giver missions. Last month, the narrative design team continued to develop tourist behavior that will bring new life to the Star Citizen large in-world events. It has been interesting balancing how to make sure the NPC presence is felt while not being overly distracting from the event itself. I appreciate that. Loud tourists can get kind of annoying. R&D. In February, the R&D team continued to work on the temporal render node. History filtering was switched to a custom bicubic filter to avoid diffusion and resampling blur due to repeated history lookups. Those history lookups. Care was also taken to eliminate potential ringing artifacts during strong camera movements. For context, I don't know what any of that means. The temporal filtering of transmittance was... That sounds like a... I want to say that sounds like an album name from like Carbon-Based Life Forms or something. The filtering of transmittance. It was improved to avoid glowing thin silhouettes around objects in foregrounds with clouds and the sun behind them. Various improvements were made to preserve history details for as long as possible. History details? Is that like, what was George Washington's favorite color? Just write it down. And to quickly converge to a full resolution image in case history needs to be rejected. Oh, we reject history strongly. Yeah, we don't learn for our mistakes, unfortunately. All right, tech, art, and animation. Last month, the tech animation team focused on refining head assets and cleaning up technical debt around their implementation. This comes as a precursor to polishing head assets and refining eye alignment in the editor to ensure characters look as good as possible. Gotta keep those eyes aligned. Starts to look weird. Further to this, I'm talking about real life, by the way. Further to this, a large contingent of the department is working on asset setup for lockers. These will be placed throughout the verse and allow players and NPCs to change their apparel to something more appropriate to their current priorities. I wonder how lockers are changing. because they've talked about lockers as kind of being these custom places where you could put your whole loadout, your multi-tool, your armor, your undersuit, your helmet, all that stuff, and then just go to the locker and switch out all at once. Wondering if they're still sticking to that. The team said, "This sounds simple, but in practice, we have to support a wide array of assets that can be stowed and recovered from these vessels. It can take quite some time to ensure everything is set up correctly." The team also kicked off initiatives to ensure the health of the build remained stable and triage technical debt built up over the course of the project. Oh boy, that's rough. Last month, the VFX team continued working on several upcoming locations, including freight elevators and distribution centers. They also investigated an issue with planetary ground storms, where fog was coming in too thick when light winds arrived. Although it is difficult to balance dynamic effects such as this, it will be easier for players to see where they are going if a storm is relatively mild. I really hope we get to see the fog actually moving, because right now when you see a storm, sometimes you don't even see the clouds, but a lot of times they just kind of appear. I hope that we get to see the fogs riding the light winds. That would be a cool feature. But that is your update, folks. This was a freaking juicy one, I'll tell you what. Holy crap. There's a lot of stuff coming up.